Let's play out a little scenario here. So you're from back east or down south, much like myself, and you're looking to come out west on an elk hunt or maybe even a mule deer hunt for the first time. Now, I know from experience what kind of a daunting task that may seem like. You're looking at boots or packs or shelters and trying to figure out what to spend your money on. I'll be the first to tell you a good solid pack is something that is invaluable in the mountains, but you may not want to spend top dollar on something that you may only use for 1 week a year. After all, you're a whitetail guy at heart, and that's what you spend the majority of your time doing. Enter the Kifaru Striker. In my opinion, it's the ultimate pack for overall versatility. From training hikes to hauling tree stand sets in to shed hunting to just being a great day pack with the ability to haul an animal out if you need to. Throw a camp bag in it or a large dry sack with a lid on top of it, and you've got yourself a setup that can take you from the big woods of the east to the high country out west. I really think you'll be glad you got one. Just take my word for it. It's been a game changer for me. All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Stickbow Chronicles, brought to you by Black Widow Bows. This is your co-host, Blake, speaking. It's been a little while since y'all have heard from me. I've just been super tied up, super busy with work. Rob's been handling pretty much all of the workload. But wait no longer. This is this month's episode of the Empty Quiver, and we were joined by Daniel Collums. So it was me, Aron, and Dan on this one. We talked about the best of the best shoot recently. I know all of us have been getting quite a few messages asking about it, and yeah, no, it was an awesome shoot. A bunch of awesome dudes got to shoot with Dan and Aron on Sunday, along with Cody Fish and Stefan. Sorry, Stefan, I can't remember your last name. But no, it was a great time. Um, all of us have been getting a ton of messages asking about how it went, so we kind of figured we'd go start to finish on how the whole shoot went and just talk about it a little bit. Spoiler alert: Dan beat the brakes off of all of us, and it was honestly pretty awesome to watch. Dan's a great kid and super humble. It's really hard to get him to talk about himself, but we go into what he did on Sunday in this podcast because it's not really anything that I've ever seen before. Not to blow it too far out of proportion, but it was that fun to watch. Yeah, so I'm not going to keep y'all too long. We're kind of go all over the map. We talk about the best shoot. We talk different methods. Kind of what Dan's doing. His hunting bow setup this year. How his target rig is going to change. His aiming methods and stuff is going to change from his target rig to his hunting rig, and why. Yeah, just kind of all over the map in this one. But yeah, let's get to the episode. Going to thank the sponsors real quick. Big thanks to Kifaru International, Selway Archery, The Footage Shaft, Backwoods Grind Coffee Company, and of course, Black Widow Bows. All right, guys, we got this month's episode of the Empty Quiver. Got Aron, obviously, and then got Daniel Collums, King of Ass Whoopins, on the other end of the line. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
No, what's up? I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
You bet, man. No, I mean, it kind of fits to have you on right after the best of the best. A bunch of people have been asking about it and stuff, so figured get you on and talk about it a little bit so people quit bugging me, and I'm sure they're probably bugging Aron and you too. So
I think most people are bugging me just because they want to hear the fact I got my ass kicked, and they're pretty excited about it. I got to be honest.
There wasn't a whole lot of us that didn't get our ass kicked. As a matter of fact, there was none of us that didn't get our ass kicked. So
I think Daniel, we probably should change your name from Trad Baby Jesus to just Tournament Jesus for now. Kind of a disservice, Baby Trad Jesus, especially since you're 6'4".
No, it was a fun shoot. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, it's
What'd
fun for you.
Once I accepted the ass whooping that was occurring and I learned to appreciate it about halfway through the round, I started having fun.
Yeah. Well, it was, I had a bunch of, obviously people were asking questions like whatever, because Daniel stayed at the house with some other guys, Tyler DePung and Mary Poppins, and we went over and shot Friday, and I shot decent on Friday, and I had guys message me like, hey, whatever the norm, is he as good as it sounds? I'm like, yeah, he's good, and and then like once it was all finished, I had people messaging me like, man, he beat you, what happened? And I'm like, well, that seems fairly self-explanatory. He's better than we are. And did you have a bad day? And I'm like, I shot okay. They're like, well, I mean, did you shoot your best? And I'm like, yeah, you guys aren't understanding. Like, even at my best would have been, I don't know what, probably 20 points behind. What'd you shoot, Daniel? A 210 or a 212?
A 210.
Yeah, so I think the best shot on that was a 190 something. So trying to get people to understand that was difficult. Was it like, yeah, it wasn't that I shot bad. Daniel's just that good. Which obviously,
yeah. In all fairness, it was probably the best day I've ever had. That Sunday was just everything was clicking for me, and everything was going in the 12. So I was happy with that. But I mean, I had a good day, so it's not like that happens every day.
No, but I mean, just to frame it up, I mean, I think the best that I could possibly shoot on that course is like a 175 to 180, and you cleared that by 30 points.
Yeah, I don't. Most in all seriousness, most compound shooters, I'd say 90% of compound shooters, wouldn't have been able to shoot that score, which,
from the trad stake.
From the trad stake, yeah, not from the compound stake, but we didn't, and we didn't shoot from the trad stake. We shot a little bit, farther back, probably 10 to 12 yards or more. I'd say what our average shot was probably 28 to 30-ish yards. I'm trying to remember.
Right in there.
So yeah, most guys wouldn't have been able to shoot that score with a compound, and that's no shit. Like, I beat a lot of guys with compounds, on the same stake with 170 scores, and you shot a 210. So it was definitely impressive. It was pretty damn cool to watch. I mean, it wasn't that cool to watch because I was getting my ass whooped at the same time. But I don't think people probably realize the skill that takes to shoot that type of a score. I was trying to think. You shot two 8s and 7 12s. Is that right? Yeah, does that add up? Yeah, 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2 8s, 12s.
Yep. 2 8s, and the first target I went to was actually an 8, and then normally if I start out, normally if I start, you shot a 12 on that first target, and we were even for 4 or 5 targets, I believe. But I knew, like, when I shoot like an 8 on the first target, it's going to be a good day just because I have something to chase. Because like if I start out good, then I have a tendency just to drop off and not pay much attention to how I'm shooting. But to have something to chase right off the bat was good. And then I think target 15 or 16, I hit my second 8. It was that 26, 27 yard downhill deer, and it was a bad shot. And lit down once and got back, and then plucked the heck out of it. And I'm fine with that. That was just a bad shot. And then
I want to revel in the fact that we shot that turkey from the compound stake, and I 10'd it and Dan 5'd it. It didn't really count, but
that is true. That is true. You destroyed that turkey. That was a great shot on that 50 yard.
That was one of the day because you took off and said, "I beat Dan," and then you took off towards the target for arrows.
I wanted to take a picture with it.
Looking at it though, like so from you, we shot Friday, right? I wanted to be fair to Daniel, and for him to go be able to see the course, right? And I think, which this wasn't like you would think, me saying I was ahead of him for a while would have been a bonus. But I think, I don't know, Daniel, you ended up beating me by 5 or 7, didn't you?
Yeah, I believe it was 7, yeah.
So, but I had you for probably half the round. Is that right? Am I remembering that right? Or a few targets?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, yep.
Yeah, well, you would think that would be a good thing, but the fact that you didn't crack under pressure really sucks, because I'm like, yep, I was ahead for most of this, and he still beat me. That means he literally has no worries whatsoever. I'm in trouble, because I had assumed if I could run with you that you would probably crack under pressure. And then that didn't happen. Oh, you actually got better, which sucked. And that was actually even my wife that I was like on the phone. I said, yeah, he's 19. The kid's got no fear. I mean, he didn't give a shit at all.
Yeah. No, I think that's an advantage I have. Like, one thing, I don't claim myself to have the best form or anything, but I do normally shoot better at tournaments than I do in my backyard, which is just a huge bonus on my behalf. I don't know really what makes me that way, but I've been in a bunch of tournaments in my life, and it's just kind of gotten to the point where I just roll with it, and it doesn't really bother me. So
I mean, most people aren't like that. Like most people do get a little bit, you get in your own head or whatever, and I had mentioned this to my wife as well as other people about because Daniel, I told you I think a few times, like the tournament side of me is kind of come and gone, to have that ambition to put as much effort as into tournaments as you're putting in, and especially the concentration. And I kind of figured, like, after this, I would be a good telltale sign for me if I'm going to put together a tournament bow. And did that drive to like try to keep up with you hit, and that was a big no. I was like, nope, one ass whooping is enough. I think I'm going to stick to hunting. It just takes more concentration than I'm willing to give, dude, because you're that focused on every target. And I don't know, I mean, Blake, you obviously shoot quite a bit as well. I don't have that attention span anymore like Daniel does. Like, each target, putting that much effort into it is difficult for me.
No, I don't either. I mean, when I shoot my best scores is just when I get in a groove, and it doesn't take much to get me out of a groove. And once I'm out of it, I'm more than likely not going to get back in one. And that was kind of the story for me this weekend. I shot pretty bad Friday, which I kind of figured I would. About 10 days there, I didn't really shoot my bow at all just because of work, but I kind of thought I'd pull back out of it come Saturday and Sunday. And Saturday, I mean, I shot pretty good. Actually, I just had 3 mishaps basically, and then Sunday kind of went back downhill. But yeah, I mean, it's just I don't think people appreciate the amount of focus that you have to do what Dan did, or to do what Aron does. Sometimes it's, I mean, 1-5 or 1-0, and you just completely hosed your whole round pretty much. And yeah, I just don't have the time. I got too much other stuff going on to be swapping bows back and forth. And so kind of where I'm at anyways is I want to shoot my hunting bow pretty much year round. That way I'm kind of, by the time hunting season rolls around, hopefully in a groove. I got to give myself as much of a chance as I can come hunting season. So, I mean,
speaking of that, maybe we can shoot against Daniel with your hunting bow, and then that way it'll make we'll feel better about it. Like, maybe we'll be closer.
I'm down to do that next year. That my widow, I'm down to do that.
I mean, I think I don't know. I'm curious what y'all think. I mean, I think we would be closer, but I still, I mean, what do you think you would drop in points, Dan? 10 points maybe on average?
I would say probably 10 to 15. Yeah. Depends on, like, I haven't shot many hunting bows. I just kind of throw them together at the season, but normally I don't drop that much. Um, I would say without string walking, so I have to touch the nock of the arrow and gap, I'd probably drop 15 points. If I could string walk, I'd probably drop like 5 or 10.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to ask. That's one thing Rob asked me when I called him after the shoot. He said, "Well, like, he was shooting a tournament bow though." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, he was, but I, I don't know how much that would make too much of
I,
a difference on Sunday.
yeah,
He was just on that much on his game."
I think sometimes people look for justification of not being as good as someone else, and Daniel, you can just shoot. And I mean, I don't. I would guess, gap shooting. I would say, yeah, 10 to 20. You're probably going to be down, but that puts you at 175 to 190 all the time with a hunting bow, roughly, right? I'm just as a guess. And now keep in mind, most people, now that's from the stakes we shot from, which are significantly farther than the trad stakes. Now there's a couple trad stakes that were right there with ours where they were all grouped together, cliff shots at 20 yards. Most people, I would say, if they come out of a 20 target course with an average of an 8, are shooting extremely well. Would you guys agree with that? A 160 and 20 targets from the trad stake?
On that course, yeah, for sure. Well, even from the trad stake, at most shoots, if you're averaging over an 8, you're a well above average shooter. Maybe not in the tournament world, but just on an average between everybody, I would say. Wouldn't you say, Dan?
Yeah, that's definitely a solid number.
And if you're averaging an 8 on that course from the stake that we shot from, that's pretty freaking salty, in my opinion, anyway, from what I've seen.
Yeah, and so I kind of putting it in context of everybody's understanding, what makes this course different is really your footing and the angles. In comparison to, a lot of ASAs, it's like shooting in a Walmart parking lot. It's pretty flat, wide open. There's branches in the way, crap like that. And when I say in the way, like, do you kneel down? Do you stand? You have to take, knowing the arc of your arrow or the cast. And so, like, shooting from the trad stakes, it's hard to say, Daniel, what you would have shot, because you shot it again from stakes that were more difficult. But I went to a few tournaments. Most of the time I shoot from the compound stakes. I went to a few where I've shot from the trad stakes, and from the trad stakes, normally I'm a lot closer to that 188 to 194 range from a trad stake where it's 18 to 26 yard targets. On flat ground, you're basically, it's almost like punching paper. Some of the shoots I've shot like that. I mean, Daniel, from how much did the terrain affect you? Obviously it didn't affect you at all, but how much does that affect people, would you say, the terrain we shot in?
Quite a bit. I was like I said, Sunday I shot, better than I expected, because I didn't expect to shoot that good with that terrain, because those, like that one ram shot that we shot, line of sight was 23 yards and I shot it for 19. That's a very steep shot compared to an ASA where literally there's no terrain change at all. Everything's flat. So when I went out there, I was expecting it to drop my scores quite a bit, but they didn't. And I think there was a little bit of luck involved in it. But yeah, I would say overall scores are definitely going to drop with terrain and everything like that. They just have to. Footing is everything, because if your footing's off, your core's off, and that messes up your whole alignment and everything. So it is a lot harder to shoot on ups and down shots like that.
So you would say that's the hardest course you've shot. Across the
yeah.
spectrum.
I've never even, the closest I've shot to that is something like an IBO, and like the worst shot on an IBO course, maybe like just a normal shot out there. Like, so I've never seen anything that hard as far as the course. It was a pretty fun course because it was technical, that's for sure. You had to think about everything. it was
Well,
fun.
a good example where I think that ram was a 43-degree angle, if I remember right. Does that ring a bell, guys? Close to that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that ram was 43 degrees. And, some of the other shots, there was a bedded ram. I think it was 35,
It's
33 yards. 30. That's what I meant. See, that's why I shot it low, my rangefinder. But it was on a steep side hill. Your toes are pointed down. It's very easy to shoot to the right or to the downhill side. It's a very technical course as far as that goes. But anyway, I mean, it's for people shooting, and I'm trying to answer the questions as we're talking with people, calling in and, asking me about the course and the different terrain and how well Daniel shot and how well. I think the easiest way to probably sum it up is some people, very few, get better when animals are in front of them hunting. Like you'll hear guys say, "Oh, put fur and feathers in front of me and I get better, but I can't shoot targets." That's generally bullshit. Most people don't get better. I think in your case, you just get better under pressure. Obviously the tournament showed, and the terrain is really what, stuck out to me, that you were able to shoot better even under the worst course you've ever shot. So it's hard to make, people understand that, but it was truly something special to watch. It was amazing, even though it was my ass getting.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that, because I look up to you a lot, and to have somebody like you say that I'm shooting that great means a lot to me. I mean, I put a lot of work into it, but it was a great shoot, and the even the trash talk and everything. Like I feed off of that, and like you said, under pressure and stuff. For some reason, I'm able to focus my mind even more under it, and I think that's really the only thing that makes me a little bit above average. Like ASA local tournaments, when I go and I'm the only barebow guy, I only scored an average like mid 190s on an ASA course. But I go to an ASA tournament when I'm peer grouped with all these guys, and I shoot up on most of them. So I don't really know what makes me that way, but it's a pretty sweet thing to have. And like I said, I think that's the only thing that makes me above average, because I don't have good form. I don't have great alignment or anything, but I can do that. I think that's the only thing that makes me a little bit better than anybody else.
Yeah, man.
So
It's I was just gonna say, from my standpoint, one of the first people I talked to afterwards, Cody Greenwood. I think he was rooting for you to kick our ass, but talked to him afterwards, and I was trying to explain to him like what you did, and so that he could understand it. And I said, dude, I could have shot a compound from the trad stakes, and I can shoot a compound, and like there wasn't many points to beat him by. Like, you know what I mean? It was. I mean, I've shot with you before, Dan, and I knew you could shoot, obviously, but I wasn't expecting you to do what you did. I was expecting you to kind of be in that 190s range, is kind of where I figured you'd be. And I mean,
Well, again, I didn't expect myself to do that either. It was a good day. I mean, just things were working out for me.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to toot your horn any more than we already have, but just so that people understand that regardless of equipment or whatever else, it really took a really good mental day to do what you did.
Saying that, I had people justifying shit for me. They're like, yeah, he was shooting 230. Like, I don't give a if I was shooting 440. He shot a 2. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't think people get it. Like, speed helps to a certain degree, without a doubt, but speed only helps a little, right? And string walking or whatever, yeah, that helps, but it doesn't help that much. I mean, no doubt, obviously, that is a more preferred method, not in hunting, but in shooting, tournaments wise 3Ds with a stick bow, but you have to figure that's my home course that I shoot fairly frequently. And you never really been out there or shot a course like that. So, people were trying to justify it for me, and I was laughing. I'm like, guys, I don't care that he kicked the shit out of me. I'm like, I'm going to help him, as much as I can. Like it doesn't, maybe it's because of age or whatever, and I'm super competitive guy, but there's a certain point where there's people that are just like better than you. And I think if I string walked and changed my bow setup, I think I could give you a run for your money to a certain degree, but you also have to have that hunger to compete. And I don't have it like you do, not anymore. And so, not making excuses at all. I'm just, I don't have, guys, it's kind of like a guy that's 5'7" and his parents say, you can put, you know what, if you put your mind to it, you can do it anything. You can do it. You can do anything you want. You could play in the NBA. They are lying to that kid right there. He ain't playing in the NBA at 5'7". There's some people that there's just a level you can get to. And I don't know that I could get to the level even with hard work. Maybe if I got divorced and got fired from my job, even on my own, I might be able to give you a run for your money, but it's just that high of a level. And again, people were justifying it for me. I'm like, the kid's just that much better than I am. There's no reason to justify. He's just good, which is cool. I mean, it couldn't happen. I mean, it'd be different. Daniel, you're not arrogant. You could have to beat you to get you to talk. So I'm sure everything gotten. So
Yeah. Again, it means a lot coming from you and everybody that's reached out to me and congratulated me. I mean, that means a lot. It really does.
So what do you think was more exciting, kicking the shit out of us at the best of the best, or winning an
ASA? No. Well, the whole time that I was out there was probably the best week of my life. So I'm just gonna have to say the best of the best because it was just great shooting with you. I mean, and shooting with Blake. That was a fun time. Just that whole day was a great day.
Man,
Yeah.
it was fun. That's one of the few times I've ever shot that poorly and had a good time. But I just, like I said, like Aron said, at some point you just have to accept that you're getting your ass kicked and there's nothing you can do about it. So you might as well just soak it in and have fun with it. And man, and Cody Fish shot with Cody. Cody actually shot really, really good on Saturday and kind of fell apart the last few targets and had him in our group. It was just a good group of dudes. Stefan shot with us, super good guy. We just had a good group of dudes there, and it was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
No, it was cool. I think at one point in time, I can't remember, there was I think I shot a 12 on the Lion downhill, and it was one of my it was one of my more difficult targets. And I said, man, I struggle with this target, and I shot a 12. And I said, yeah, man, you said, I think Blake, you said good shot. And I said, yeah, man, I got to focus. I hate to lose. And you said, yeah, so do I. And here we are, because we were both down by 12 or at that point or something.
Yeah, that was one of the funnier comments of the day. It was, yeah, I mean, I hate losing just as much as the next guy. I wanted to beat Aron pretty bad. And honestly, if I was ever going to do it, Sunday might have been the day to do it, but I couldn't pull my shit together. But yeah, no,
I didn't shoot Sunday either. I just average. I think I shot in the 160s. Hey, I mean, I don't. It's so funny. Like I said, people justifying, and I've had people message me, "How's he going to do with animals in front of him?" And it's funny. Jealousy is a weird and strange thing, and luckily, obviously, like all the people in our group, nobody was jealous of anything other than Moose. Luke, I think, was jealous of your moose knuckle, but that's about it. Everybody else, it was a very cool group. There's a little bit of trash talk, but I mean, it was good. Everybody at the stake was like, "Hey, put it in there." Nobody was crying. It was a pretty awesome day, other than the ass whooping I took.
No, yeah, I mean I mean, what do you average on that course generally, Aaron, in the 170s? And you've shot into the 190s a couple times, haven't you?
I shot a 196 on it, which I thought was good, which obviously was not as good as I thought. But I've shot in the 180s from the compound stakes before, but really the compound stakes compared to the stakes we shot from really aren't a whole lot different. A couple of the targets they were. But my thing is with that course is just the hunting perspective of it. Like that's about as realistic of a hunting course as you can get. And one thing that we didn't talk about is that was the first high pressure tournament I shot without a clicker. I've shot a tournaments without a clicker before, but I mean obviously high pressure, and I shot relatively well. Especially on Friday, which doesn't really count because it wasn't part of the tournament. But, I've been really working on trying to get rid of the string clicker completely and just using it for training. So I was happy, that I never really just, totally had a mind fart and, blanked the target or anything, which was cool. But mentally or whatever, I don't know what to say other than the fact you just kicked the shit out of us, Daniel. Like at no point was I got a chance. Like maybe target one because I shot a 12 and you shot an 8, and maybe 4 or 5. That it was just like, well, we're all shooting for second, third, and fourth place because you were just on fire. You hit 412.
I was just gonna say I had really good lines all day. They were just right out.
Just right out. I think that moose target was the one that you were most upset on. That was just out of the 8 ring, wasn't it? Wasn't it the moose?
I think I aided the moose. I can't remember, but I don't know. I just could not figure it out. I couldn't get in a groove, but I kept saying, it was a good line. I hit it in the spine, but it was a good line.
Yeah. What's the next big tournament you've got?
I'm going to see next weekend is the third leg of the Triple Crown in Ohio. It's the IBO, and looking forward to that. I think I'm sitting in the mid 130s in shooter of the year as far as how far up I am on the second place guy, and then after that is Trad Worlds, and I'm really looking forward to Trad Worlds. That's a really fun shoot.
Yeah, I got to make it back out to that at some point.
Yeah, it's fantastic. One thing that you were just talking, Aaron, about how that course was set up. Because I haven't hunted with a recurve that much, and the only animal I've killed is that mule deer last year in Wyoming, and to shoot a course like that was pretty built my confidence going into the season as far as how I can shoot in those cliff shots and everything. Because when you're at an ASA and everything's flat, I can shoot up, but it doesn't really matter when you're at 12,000 feet with a mule deer 30 yards below you. And I'm like wondering how I was going to do. So yeah, in the backyard, I have a porch that I shoot off of, and I kind of play it so that I can kind of see how I'm doing. But I got out there kind of worried about how I would do, but it built my confidence being able to shoot just as good out there with all those angles and stuff going into hunting season, which I thought was awesome.
What is your tournament bow and hunting bow? Because I'm sure people are going to want to, know, or what people are going to ask. So.
Yeah, the tournament bow I'm shooting right now is a 29-inch WF 29 CD riser with medium TradTech limbs, and that makes a 72-inch bow. It is a very forgiving work of art. I'm shooting the springy rest. And for
that's
a hunting
one thing
bow,
I thought was interesting is you were shooting a springy.
Well, yeah, me and Aaron went back and forth talking about that at his house, because normally all the tournament guys shoot plungers and rest. Like even like Snyder has a drop away rest that a lot of people shoot, and I just, for some reason, I can't shoot them that well. I don't know if it's the way that I tune or something's wrong with my limbs, but right now I can't figure out how to tune it worth a crap. And so I was just like, Aron, do you have a springy? And he gave me one, and we threw it on there, and then my grips got a lot tighter, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna stick with the springy for a while. It works great for me.
What's your hunting
And then,
rig? Sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah,
interrupt you.
oh no, my hunting rig is, I think this year is going to be a PMA 64 inch, the G10 riser, carbon limbs, and about 50 pounds of my draw length, and really looking forward to shooting that thing. And then like for a ILF rig, I'd probably shoot a 66 inch bow, 21 inch riser, long limbs, just because I got a stupid long draw. We measured it last night, and it was 31 and a half last night. So it's it's a long draw.
So when you go to hunt, are you going to shoot a fixed crawl, or are you going to try and shoot 3 under and gap?
I think I'm gonna gap. I do have issues that I've kind of recently learned about. My point on is just like so far away that I think I'm gonna have to play with a little bit heavier of an arrow and a higher knocking point. But I am gonna try to touch the knock and just gap shoot. Maybe mark my riser or something to help me give a reference point. But string walking, it's fine, fixed crawl and everything. But I think while I'm hunting, it's probably better just to reach up and grab the knock of my arrow every time. Just, it's a lot more solid that way.
Are you going to leave your anchor kind of where it's at, or are you going to try and bump it up a little bit for hunting season?
No,
I know that's
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to touch my anchor because it's really solid right now. I really like it, so I'm not going to mess with anything as far as form for hunting. Should be able to work out.
Aron, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, there was a bunch of other stuff. Just talk about in general. If we're done talking about Daniel kicking that shit out of us, if that's cool.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So, Daniel, before the tournament or whatever, I'd done a couple podcasts about with I did one with Dwayne Martin, one with Rod Jenkins, where we're talking about clickers and psycho triggers and crap like that, which end up to be kind of a shit show. And you and I talked about it quite a bit, where like a string clicker is definitely more susceptible to clicker panic than let's say like a sear type of a thing, because I think clickers are important for training, and I don't know that you could argue that, but the way that you are using it, Daniel, is basically just you go to full expansion and you like drag your fingernail across to the base of the tab or whatever. I don't know that people maybe fully understand exactly. I still had a lot of questions on that, and so what I was talking about with the clicker thing was, don't become a slave to a mechanical clicker like a string clicker, because it can bite you in the butt. It becomes like a click to collapse. If it ever got pulled off in a hunt, you would, and like the hunt has ended because you're that much of a slave to it. It can be a big problem. Daniel, what you're doing, along with a few others, is quite a bit different than that. It's not the mechanical clicker I think people are getting confused with. It's literally you're just dragging the thumbnail across the base of your tab or something, correct?
Yeah, until it pops off. I think the reason that people can control the sear system a little bit better, and I kind of thought about this recently, is like with a clicker, you have absolutely no idea when it's going to go off, unless you shoot enough where I'm in my anchor, I expand this much, it should go off here. So like beginners getting into it and everything, they don't know when that thing's going to go off. And like you said, it can kind of freak people out. But with the sear system, say I'm in like a very high stress situation and I've been holding back or not even a high stress situation. If I've been holding back for like 5 seconds and things are starting to shake, like my shot's breaking down, I can just start adding more pressure to my thumb. It's still random, but I'm putting more pressure to my thumb so that shot breaks faster. Because you can tune when it's going to go off within like a few second integrals. Like if I want to have a 3 second shot, I can make that happen with the sear. and it'll still be random within that 3 seconds. I don't know when it's going to go off. But if I want to relax, take my time, and shoot for a 5, 6, 7 second shot, then I can fine tune that. Or you can even go totally random and take 15-second shots. That's fine. But like, I think that's why it's a little bit better for target panic, is because you can do that. It's pretty slick. I like the way it works. I've never actually shot a clicker, so I can't speak to how I would shoot with a clicker or really anything about a clicker. But the steer system has been really, really. I mean, I shoot it really well. I like it.
Well, it's funny you say that because like whenever I first started, I shot a clicker. You know, I got to where in the driveway, I could make that thing click. Just I mean, it was just I'd get in a rhythm. I never had problems getting it to click. And like you just said, I almost kind of knew when it was going to click, so I was expecting it, but not expecting it to a point where it was uh, like I was going to grab my bow arm or something like that. But I, I I got good enough at it that I could make it go off when I wanted to, basically. But my
Yeah.
issue with the clicker was it worked great in the driveway, and then opening day of bow season, I go out and get in a tree stand, and I've got a giant buck walk underneath me at like 17 yards or whatever it was, and I had never really shot it out of a tree stand, the clicker, and I'm sitting there trying to get through that clicker, drawed back on this deer, and I don't care. I couldn't get through it, like period. I wasn't going to get to the clicker, and at some point, like I'm sitting here pulling, like fixing to pull my arm out of socket, trying to get through my clicker, and then I just kind of panicked and let the string go and shot over him, and and I had that happen twice, and that's when I yanked it off. Is because like I'd start to panic trying to get through that thing in a hunting situation, and I don't know if that's really what you're referring to as far as clicker
Yeah,
panic, Aaron, but that was my experience with it.
100%. And when we did those podcasts, I really could give two shits whether you guys throat click, nostril click, butthole click, or thumb click. It doesn't matter to me. Mine was more of a hunting situational scenarios when we were talking about it, because with the guiding I do, and obviously myself and hunting with buddies, when your mind goes when an animal's coming in from killing the animal and picking a spot to please click, it's a bad situation to be in, just like Blake was just talking about. And so, what I've really been working on when I started to get like little micro collapses, or a couple of times in the field where I went from my, like solid, confident shooting sequence, I guess you could say, where an animal's coming in, I got no worries. And next thing you know, I'm like, pull, Aaron, pull, keep it, get it click, get it. My mind is now off of what it should be concentrating on. So I actually shortened my clicker at first to where I would pull through it to keep constant tension. And I knew if I would lose tension, because it would double click. So I knew if I was doing any collapsing. Once I got really comfortable with that, doing a lot of drills where I'd pull through the clicker where it would barely be past it, so I knew if I collapsed at all, it would double click. Then I actually lengthened it to where it wouldn't click at all, unless I got real skippy. Like Dan, what there was a target where I was like real nervous and I made that thing click.
I think it was that bedded ram, Aaron.
Yeah.
Was that what it was, Blake? Yeah.
I think so.
And that example is I'm strong enough, I can, I feel I'm pulling the max expansion, but I can cheat it and shoulder pull and go past where I'm comfortable. And that's what I did at the tournament, is I would lengthen it out to where if I made it click, then I knew I was, and that's been my problem, is over expansion. Because I drilled into my brain so much to, when in doubt, keep pulling, that I would shoulder pull my arrow right off the string because it hit my shelf. And that was a problem for me. And I'm not saying that system is something that a coach would teach or whatever. That is just what's worked for me to get rid of that clicker. And like today, I went out and I set up a new bow, and I initially set the clicker up for the tune, and then I kind of, personally, I get the draw weight set, and I get my draw length set, the clicker set. I fire a few arrows through it, and as weird as it is, I just lengthen it after that, just so I know if I'm, I got a 220-inch mule deer in front of me, and I click before I even hit my anchor, I've probably shoulder pulled and cheated the system a little. Now, there's probably going to be coaches and people that know what they're doing here that are going to message me. Don't message me, because I'm not changing shit, because I'm really good at killing stuff and that system's working. So please don't give me any advice. I'm keeping what I got. Give it to Blake. But it worked for me.
Oh man. Give it to me now.
Didn't Earn Your Fall just do a podcast on that? If it's working for you, don't change or something. I saw Blake do something, or not Blake. I saw Jake do a podcast. I think it was about probably him like canting over, because people give us crap about that, not shooting a vertical bow. And it's just hard for me to switch right now, because I've been super successful hunting with my system, and I'm not going to change. I mean, Daniel, would you change if somebody told you to do something different than you're doing right now?
No, not at all. No, I would say that one shot, like all the side hills where you're facing away from the hill, like that bedded ramp. I think that's like where it hurts you the most, because you had to aim. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but you had to aim a few feet to the left, correct? On those kind of shots. Foot, yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say,
for me, I can pretty much. Yeah, for me, I have to hold. I can hold on the left side of the 10 was pretty much where I was aiming. So a vertical bow is definitely a lot better in those situations. I don't have to aim way to the left or way to the right. So that was an advantage I had.
Well, and the reason why I can't, and I don't know, Aaron, you can throw your 2 cents in, because I have a feeling it's probably a pretty similar answer. I know that it's not ideal in a lot of situations to cant your bow, but in order for me to be able to shoot 3 under, touching the nock, and not have a point on that's, 50 yards, I've got to cant my bow to get my arrow underneath my eye, so that I can use my arrow to line up my lefts and rights, because where I anchor on my face, it's kind of up on the side of my cheekbone. And if I anchored lower, obviously my anchor would come in more. And like you, Daniel, my arrow would be more underneath my eye, just because my anchor is sucked in closer to my face. But because of, wanting to have a, 35-yard point on or whatever, and shoot a fairly fast arrow, talking about hunting anyways, 170 to 180, something like that, I've got to have a high anchor. And in order to have that high anchor and be able to gap shoot, I've got to camp my bow over. And so it's you kind of got to pick your poison a little bit. I mean, Aaron, that's pretty sure you've probably got a similar answer.
I anchor at the, round corner of my jaw up high on the outside of my face. So if I look down, if I shot vertical bow anchoring like that, I would be 5 miles off the target. So when I cant over, I can look down the arrow and get my eyeball over it. The arrow from anchoring on the outside of my face. Now, I went to set up a vertical tournament bow and change my anchor, more of an Olympic style anchor, to the front of my face, where I could shoot a vertical bow and string walk. I 100% can do it. I 100% I'm not going to. I have to shorten my draw length almost 1.5 inches out of the gate. So that's kind of a problem. And 2, you go with what you know. And I guarantee the first thing I'm going to do in a hunting situation is I'm going to reef that thing back to where I'm normally at and camp my bow, because that's what I've been doing and it's been working. So that's kind of where I talked about with the tournament side of things. For me to try to remotely come close to hanging with Daniel, I would have to change my anchor, shoot a vertical bow. You can't string walk with a canted bow, because you're just shooting at an angle. Basically, it's hard to explain. But when you're anchoring and canting like I am, to shoot the vertical bow, I would have to change so much. It would really screw up the way I'm shooting for hunting right now. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to change. I'm scared to death to change is the bottom line. I don't want to affect anything on the hunting side of things. And again, if I hadn't been successful and done well enough with hunting, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, let's change. And Rod says stand up like a man all the time and gives me shit about it. But I'm sorry, Rod, I'm not going to stand like a man. I'm going to hunch over like the hunchback in Notre Dame because it's worked for me. For the exact same reason.
I kind of had to talk myself off a ledge after the tournament because I got home and immediately started jacking around with dropping my anchor down a little bit and trying to shoot vertical and this and that. And I just, that's not the issue for me. The issue for me is between my ears most of the time. So, trying to change things up and it doesn't make any sense. It's way more the Indian than it is the bow, about 98% of the time. So, you know, you start mind screwing yourself into thinking that you need to, just because of watching what Daniel did to us on Sunday, thinking that you need to change things and, not taking away from what you did, Daniel, but it's, you got to be confident in what you do, especially if it's been working, and work on yourself and be honest with yourself at the same time. And that's kind of where I'm at is, I need to get some coaching and kind of get back to square one and work on my mental side of things more than anything, probably.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of funny is I shoot a vertical bow for 100,000 arrows, in a season, and then I pick up a hunting bow and it feels like I have to can it partially because most sight windows are short enough that I can't really see, so I have to make it over a little bit. But the other reason is it just looks cooler. The cannon bow just looks cooler, but it does. I mean, it shoots better vertical bow. I mean, nobody can argue with the fact that if you shoot a vertical bow, a lot of left and right issues are going to go away. But there's reasons that like Aron shoots his that way, and like he shoots that better than anybody in the world. He's unbelievable shooting that way. So he shouldn't have to change it. He shoots great.
Thank you, because I'm not going to. Honestly, though, for me, I'm so scared to change. When I say fear, I've been in archery and long enough, and your brain goes to, I don't want to get in a long debate with this with anyone, but you do go on semi-autopilot. You go with what you know. And if I tried to shoot a vertical bow, I'm worried that animal got in front of me that I would immediately cant over, or whatever. So again, if I was trying to hang, with you, I certainly would probably have to shoot a vertical bow and string walk. But it's good for people to listen into this because, maybe I would have done things differently when I started out. Maybe I wouldn't have anchored where I did. It's just that's where I anchored with a compound that was comfortable. The canting over, I had success with it, so I didn't change. And I don't have any issue with sticking with it. I'm not looking back at it like, oh man, I really need to, like the last thing on my mind is to go to a vertical bow right now, because it's worked. But someone getting started listening to this, it's a big decision because it's really going to be what kind of forms you for the rest of your traditional archery career or whatever, is what you start out with in that first 6 months time frame.
Yeah. Well, like I said a minute ago, like you shoot good enough that way that you shouldn't have to change, and nobody should get on to you about shooting, because like I was worried on that first target. I was like, yeah, Aron's on today, because you can shoot lights out, but with somebody starting out, you might want to look at going vertical, because once you go vertical, you don't go back.
That's funny. Again, like the can't thing or whatever, like when people get, started that are emulating a me or a Blake or a Jake, or someone else that's known, that canting for me is by necessity, because I gap shoot to look over. I got to look over the top of my arrow. If I brought my string forward and anchored in the corner of my mouth, I would have to shoot vertical then. It's that simple, because then I can look over the top of my arrow with my string in front of my face. Tom Clum and I've talked about this a ton. And again, that's, when I got started, Tom had, he had told me, get my eye tooth, putting my finger on my eye tooth or my index finger or whatever. But I had anchored for so long with a compound with my knuckles in that jaw under my ear area. So it just made sense that I would wrap my thumb and index finger around my jaw right there. And that's what I went with. And I never changed. So people listening in, pay attention, because how you get started after that first 6 months or so, it's pretty hard to break those habits. In my case, 4 or 5 years now, it would be difficult for me to, well, your ass whooping was not enough for me to come home and put together a tournament bow. I came home and was like, looks like I'm going to keep practicing angles and hopefully get better. I just don't want to change. On that note, as we're going over all this, Daniel, for your tournament bow, because I did have a lot of people ask that, and I just don't have the experience because I'm shooting 60 pounds, which do not shoot a tournament at that weight. It doesn't bug me, but you're shooting 45 for your tournament bow. Is that right?
44. I think it was 44.5. So yeah, right at 45, which is a little bit heavier than most people. Most people go on a tournament side like between 38 and 42. They stay right around that 40 mark.
Oh yeah, and that was my question. So like Dwayne or Spanky or whatever the guys, the dudes at Dimmer, whoever the good guys are in the tournament scene, they're in that 38 to 42 range.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Most all of them.
And you're gonna what are you gonna hunt with around 50?
Yeah, right at 50. I think I can hold 50 pretty well without, like, I can get a good 5-second shot without shaking too much with 50 pounds. So as much weight as I can handle, and I think that's right at what I can handle.
Well, and I got to be
And
honest
Blake,
with myself. I'm shooting. Go ahead, Aaron. What were you gonna say?
probably about what you're gonna answer. I was gonna say, what are you shooting, Blake?
I'm shooting 60, and I'm gonna be totally honest with myself. I'm not shooting enough right now to handle 60 as comfortably as I normally would. So I might be dropping some weight back if work stays as busy as it is right now into that low 50s range. I feel comfortable in that range to still kill stuff, and picking up like Cameron's got a DOS 21 with 48-pound Ukas on it. I think they're like 52 on that riser or something like that. And picking that bow up and shooting it, just that lack of 8 pounds on the back end, I hold that bow so much steadier than I do a 60-pound bow. Has nothing to do with, Widow versus Uka or whatever. It's just a sheer, limb weight number. It does make a huge difference. So if work stays pretty crazy like it has been, I'm probably going to back off. Like I said, I feel comfortable in that low 50s range as far as penetration and stuff. So, the only reason I shoot as heavy as I do is so that I can shoot a 580 grain arrow at a pretty good clip. But yeah, I may back down, honestly.
Is that an uncomfortable silence, or did I lose service?
It was uncomfortable silence.
Gotcha. And I think again, with everybody listening in with this, there, and I'm going to miss some. So you've got the Stickbow Chronicles, the Push, Solid Archery Mechanics, all really good places to look. The Trad Lab for technical stuff. Denny Sturgis, Randy Cooling. Those are a couple guys with good info. The Masters of the Bear Bow. There's a lot of info out there. Is we've got 3 chuckleheads talking right now. I think what's important is get a form coach and focus on form first. If you're came out of the womb with target panic, that's a different story. But usually bad form, you get target panic generally from bad form. So really work on form and drilling. That's one thing that Cody was pushing me to talk to a lot more people about, because they don't see me drilling as much. But I'll shoot 4 arrows at 5 feet, and then I'll go to 40 yards and I'll shoot an arrow, a 32. I really work on trying to keep my hand against my face, constant tension. What are the things that Blake you do and Daniel you do as far as drilling or training, or do you guys just go out and fling arrows at targets at longer distances, or do you guys work at drilling?
I really lack in this area, so I'm going to leave that to Daniel. I might get 10 minutes to shoot a day or 15 minutes to shoot a day, and drilling is not very much fun. So I go in my backyard and fling arrows and give myself false hope. So Daniel, I'll hand that to
The
you.
only thing, I basically just shoot a lot of arrows, and if I'm having a really bad day, my groups are bad, then I'll go up to the target at like 5 yards and just close my eyes and feel my form, just to make sure everything's in check. That's pretty much the only thing I do is just blank bail at a close range with my eyes closed. Focus on every little aspect of my grip, my fingers on the strings, my back, and all that. Just pull through. But basically, I just shoot a bunch. 50. Right now, it's only been 50 arrows a day recently. But if I have a free day, I'll shoot 200 arrows. Just really focus on everything throughout that. And I try to train my mind in my backyard as well. Like one thing I was doing a couple years ago was, or not a couple years ago. I've only been doing this a couple years. Last year was I took a small target, like a little chunk of target that I cut off, and then I'd put it against the wood line of my house so that if I missed it, I would lose an arrow. And that puts your mind in a pretty high stress situation just in your backyard. And like, I don't get arrows free. So it's kind of, you're worried. Yeah, it probably wouldn't work for you. But yeah, last year, like $30 an arrow or $20 an arrow, and you miss, you lose an arrow or you break an arrow. So that's something I did. I used to also get nosebleeds real bad. I just recently got them cauterized, but I would get them like all the time. And if I got one in the backyard, I wouldn't like go in immediately. I would probably shoot a couple ends with that blood just coming out of my nose. And it's stuff like that I train with so that I can, when I get to a tournament, the stress of the environment doesn't get to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty amazing to me because I can watch, like when I'm tuning in the garage, I'll put the phone up above me and film slow mo, and my form when I'm in my garage shooting at like 4 yards looks totally different than when I film myself in the backyard shooting at 30 and 35. So I know that I could benefit a lot from doing more blank bailing just because I don't know, and I guess maybe it's a target panic issue. You guys may be able to chime in on that, but my hand seems to, my release seems to be way more fluid when I'm blank bailing than when I'm actively aiming at something.
Yeah, it's just because you're focusing on that. Probably focusing a little too much on the aiming when you get to a further distance. That's one thing that I never do is I get the aiming done extremely fast and I never focus on it again. I just once I aim and then I just look at the spot and hope that my mind keeps the arrow there because it does a very good job keeping your arrow there, and I don't worry about anything else, and then I go into my back and my follow through and everything. But that's I always shoot better when I don't pay attention to the aiming. Like Sunday when I was out there was only like one target that I was really cognizant of where the tip of my arrow was. The rest of them I would put the arrow tip up there and then I'd just forget about it.
Well, that's one thing you and I talked about after the shoot because I've always been a pretty hard aimer. Even back in my compound days, and on days when uh, when I'm holding steady and don't see a lot of pin float or arrow tip float or whatever you want to call it, I can be pretty freaking lethal. But on days where I'm not holding this steady for whatever reason, maybe I'm tired or too much caffeine or whatever, it kind of consumes my brain a little bit. And um, the days where I'm holding steady give me false hope that it's going to be like that all the time, and it's not. And it's something I got to get a handle on and figure out. I have to remind myself a lot to look through the tip of the arrow. Don't look at it, look
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to, especially, when it comes down to nut cutting time and I've got to make a shot, it's hard for me to do that. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around, just letting her float. And, you know, maybe there's some drilling or something that I can do that can kind of ease that. Cause I mean, talking, Aron, you soft aim also, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, any good shooter that you talk to who's super, super consistent, like both of y'all are, that's what they're doing. So it's uh, the days where I can hold my bow super steady gives me false hope sometimes because I can shoot some pretty insane groups, and but as soon as that arrow tip starts floating around, it can go downhill pretty quick. So I'm sure there's probably people listening in that have that same issue, and that's certainly an issue that I have.
I think what's important here, and I'm speaking from the hunting perspective as much as far as how they coincide, you're not going to hold, I hate to use the word hard and soft, I just feel icky, but you're not going to hard aim at an animal because your adrenaline, right? It's just going to be difficult. And so, obviously with a compound, I got used to pin float shooting at 100 yards. And so with an animal, the thing that everyone's different. So, I mean, this is not textbook. This isn't what you have to do. But when an animal comes in, they say pick a spot. A lot of people pick a spot. I get that. You got to concentrate. But for me, I don't pick an exact spot. I'm not. You can't pick a hair out on an elk or a deer. I'm looking in that golden triangle. So I'm picking a very large spot. And if I float inside of a softball, which is about normal, I have no care in the world. The last thing I'm ever worried about is quote unquote float. It doesn't bug me. I'm worried about, I'm worried about pulling, obviously keeping max expansion. And, just looking where I'm going to hit, but I'm not picking that spot. It is a very large spot. And since I gap shoot, I'm really not concentrating where I'm actually wanting to hit. If it's 26 yards, I've got my arrow in the armpit and I'm looking at that. Now I can see where I want to hit, but I'm not concentrating on that. So everyone's going to be different, with this.
Yeah, no, me and you have actually talked about it, and I'm certainly not in the I'm better on fur camp, but it does seem like that I don't have that issue nearly as much on live animals as I do on targets, just because I'm not aiming at a scoring ring. I'm not sitting there actively thinking like, hey, I need a 10 right here. I just know the tip of my arrow needs to be between the hoof and the knee, and once it kind of gets there and I feel good about it, I'm just kind of looking at where I want to hit, and the shot just breaks. And same thing, out at 35 yards or whatever, when the tip of my arrow gets into that armpit region or whatever, and I just kind of let the shot break. I'm not concerned if my tip is floating from the front of the lungs to the middle of the lungs or whatever. It's just I guess 3D targets or paper or whatever causes something in my brain that just kind of trips me out. The float does, just maybe because I'm actively thinking about it a lot more.
Well, like when Brady Ellison shot the 900 at Vegas, and is like I think the only person to ever do that with Olympic recurve. When people asked him about it, he was like, I was floating my sight all around that yellow, but yet he hit 90 of those quarter-size circles in a row. He's like, just trust the float, and I've always just trusted the float, and it seems that I mean your mind is an amazing machine, and it'll keep it as close as it can get for you, so you don't have to worry about it. If you're moving and you let go and it's 4 inches further to the right than you think, downrange is normally just like an inch. It's not as bad as you think. Float left to right doesn't equate downrange as much as you would think.
Yeah, I mean, Aron, what do you think? Am I a dumb shit, or did what I say make any sense?
No, it makes sense. everybody's brain's different. I mean, that's one thing that, I try to explain to people that, there's a lot of people with different methodologies in coaching, and there's no black and white. Everyone is different. And that's whether that be psycho triggers or grip steers or however they do it in their mental game. Float is part of that. I think that I know, Daniel, I think I mentioned this to you before about taking coaching from someone that's never been or isn't currently better than you or isn't going through what you are, meaning, if you're a hunter and hunting multiple different situations and you want to take advice from somebody that has a background in that. If you're kicking the shit out of everybody like Daniel is, you want to talk to somebody that has won tournaments, that has been at a national level and knows what they're going through. I mean, the last thing someone 400 pounds wants to hear is from somebody that's gifted as a Greek god about diet advice. They've never been in a position. They may want to look like that, but they've never been in the position that somebody that's naturally a fat kid like myself has been in. I think tournament or hunting is the same thing. You want to take advice from someone with like-minded that's been in your shoes and can give you advice. And that was one thing I kind of pressed upon Daniel was, man, make sure you're getting advice from people that have been down the road and been in your shoes. Now, Daniel, I can help you with hunting and say, oh yeah, man, I've been in that position. Think about this. But tournament wise, not that many people that have been in a position you're currently in, Daniel. And, with you being worried about, like float and movement, I think it's important to talk to someone that can give you advice that has dealt with that. And that's the best advice you're going to get. That's a lot of rambling. Did that make sense?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I'm like I was saying, I'm not worried about float at all. That's something I never focus on. You got to block that out of your mind. I don't struggle with that, but I mean, there's things that I struggle with that I wonder, well, should I get this addressed or should I just, keep shooting like I'm shooting because the scores are good enough that it doesn't matter. But it is something that I always think about.
Well, I mean, have you at this point? I know it's amazing. You've only been shooting for what, a year and a half?
2.5.
2.5. Either way. I mean, have you
Yeah,
ever had like a slump or anything that you've come into that you had to
Yeah,
kind of crawl back out of? And what was it, and how did you get out of it?
probably a year into it, I got target panic pretty bad and just worked my way out of it with a sear system. That's pretty much the only slump that I've been in. I mean, groups have started off horrible, obviously, and they just firmly and consistently got tighter and tighter as time went on. But really never had a huge slump, just the target panic issue, and I got over that pretty fast, and I haven't dealt with it since. So I'm pretty lucky. I'm pretty lucky in that arena.
Did the target panic start when you started getting really good?
Yeah, it did. It really started on when I first started indoor, and aiming at that spot freaked me out. I was shooting like an NFAA target, and I started out shooting the 140s, and then went to the 120s, 115. At one tournament, I barely broke 100, and I realized that in that moment I have target panic because I couldn't even get on the white spot. So, and then I worked out of that in the same time frame I was shooting indoor. And indoor will definitely teach you some stuff.
Yeah, if I could get my thumb around where you, like you do on your tab, I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably try it, but I can't get it to work. My thumb won't reach around to my tab like yours does.
Yeah. No, a lot of people can't, and it works for me really well because I do have a long thumb, and I can really index it pretty easily. But a lot of people are in your shoes about they can't reach it, so which kind of sucks. But I don't really know how to help you with that.
I could get false nails. Well, you got anything you want to add, Aron?
No, man, I'm good. Anybody that's listening in, obviously, probably, pay attention to the portion where we're talking about when you're starting out draw length and poundage and kind of walk your own path. I think anyway, and I haven't been doing it that long either, but if you're going to get a coach and you've got form issues, get a form coach. If you got a brain problem, get a brain doctor. If you don't have any issues, don't make shit up. One of the things Rod said that I thought was probably the funniest thing on the podcast was brand new shooters getting into traditional archery, wanting to put a clicker on, and I think his exact comment was, "How about you just learn to shoot your fucking bow?" There's something to be said for that, right? I mean, there's when I say that, I mean if you've got a coach around, find out what's going to work best for you. In a compound world, some guys are going to want to shoot a true back tension release. Some people are going to want to shoot a thumb button, and some will shoot a hinge. Everyone's going to be different. I can't personally shoot the way Daniel does. I broke my hands too much. My thumb can't even come remotely close to the base of the tab, much like probably from manual labor, I would guess, Blake, from banging your hands up. I can't touch the base of my tab. So you've got to find a way that's going to work for you the best.
Yep, pretty much nail on the head. Don't start screwing a bunch of shit into your riser and doing all kinds of goofy stuff until you figure out that's what you need. That's always kind of been my advice is, don't start doing a bunch of goofy stuff and kind of mind screwing yourself before you even get to that point. Would you kind of agree, Daniel?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I guess we'll wrap this thing up. Daniel, thanks for coming on, buddy. And man, it was fun shooting with you, and we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. It was an honor to be on here, and it was great shooting with y'all. It was probably the one tournament when I found out that it was happening, I was like, I'm looking forward to that more than any tournament. And it did not disappoint. I had a great time. So I appreciate y'all having me. Appreciate Aron having me, and having me on here is just an honor.
I'm not that cool, bro. Aron.
It's funny saying it's an honor is you beat the shit out of us by 40 points, but whatever.
I literally, I was looking for my silver Sharpie after the tournament. I was going to have Daniel sign my limbs and say, what did I say I was going to have you write on there? I got my ass beat by Daniel Collums.
Yeah, just work harder or something, you suck. And I was like, I was looking for the Sharpie, man. I was super willing to do that.
Oh, I needed a little motivation. Yeah. It was good though, man. I didn't shoot I didn't shoot well all weekend, but I still had a heck of a good time. So
no, it was good. It was fun, and like I said, Daniel, anything you ever need from me, I'm more than willing and happy to help you out. I think you got a bright future in front of you, and it's good for traditional archery. It's good for people to see, guys that can be that accurate and give, younger crowd is good. I mean, younger guys cater to younger people. I mean, obviously you want to respect and honor the older generation, but it's good to see, new kind of young blood in the hunting world and in the tournament world. And I'm excited. 19-year-old shooting like you are, you've got a bright future ahead of you. So for anybody with tournament questions, make sure and message Daniel Collums, not Aron Snyder, or Blake. Daniel. Yeah. And Daniel, social, everybody can go follow you.
Yeah, it's Public Land Dan on Instagram, Daniel Collums on Facebook. Yeah, you can hit me up all you want because I love answering people's questions. So it's pretty
well, that makes one of us. So good.
Yeah.
I can tell you what kind of corn to put in your feeders.
What to do when you hit the what did I tell you guys? When your guide walks up and says, well, that'll eat good, you knew you screwed up. That means you shot the wrong one. So
hands you a napkin to wipe the milk off its mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's tender. So no, it was awesome shooting with you guys. And yeah, anything you ever need, either one of you guys, I'm more than willing to help you guys. Really appreciate the friendship. No homo, or maybe a little.
Same. All right, dudes. Let's hop off here and go ahead, Dan.
No, you're good. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Peace.
Yeah, you bet. Go follow Dan, everybody. Public Lane Dan on Instagram, Daniel Collums on Facebook. He's awesome dude. And
Moose
like Aron said, super humble. It's hard to get him to talk about himself, but yeah, appreciate it, guys.